So before we get started, we are going to review a little bit of Algebra 1, okay? So our first blank is we use a closed dot for these symbols, for less than or equal to or greater than or equal to symbols. We use an open dot for less than or greater than symbols, okay? So guys, these go together. Brackets go with these symbols, and you get a closed circle. With parentheses, you get these symbols, and it's an open circle. Okay, so if we were to graph these, this reads x is greater than 4. So I'm going to go to the number 4 and put what kind of circle, a closed or an open circle? Open. Based off of these notes right here, it's an open dot for these symbols. Okay, numbers greater than 4 are to the right of 4. So that is how you would graph this inequality. Okay, the next example, x is less than or equal to -7. So I'm going to go to -7 and put what kind of circle? Closed. And this is less than or equal to. So we're going to go to the left. These numbers are less than or equal to -7. I'm going to let you guys do number 3 and number 4. Okay, the next part of the notes. This is kind of what I just said. When you use parentheses, that means you had an open circle. When you use brackets, that means you had a closed circle. What this means, let me go back over here to this example. Let me write the domain for this. This means you can be greater than 4, but you cannot equal 4. That's what this means. You can be any number between 4 and infinity. You just can't be 4. Okay? For number 2, this says you can be any number between -infinity, so you can be very small, and you can go all the way up to -7. Can we include -7? Yes, so that would be a bracket because we can include -7. Okay, so these are the different ways to write the domain for these. Okay, let's see. So let's work a little bit backwards. I'll do number 8 right here. So guys, my main number right here, my point of interest is right here at 5. So I'm going to put x and the number 5. So guys, do I want to be less than 5 or greater than 5? Less than. All these numbers over here are less than 5. Do I need to put the equal sign? No, because it's an open circle. Wonderful. Okay, so that's how you do number 8. Okay, now let's talk about set notation. Set notation is exactly like inequality notation. I'm doing this example here. X is greater than 5. It's exactly like inequality notation. The only difference is you put a little curly bracket and you put X and a bar. So that is set notation. So maybe off to the side, you can write a little note. I'll give you different examples. If I write X is greater than 5, this is how you write it in inequality form. If I write it in set form, you just put a curly bracket. X is greater than 5. The third form is interval form. So this would be 5 to infinity. And this is interval form. Those are the 3 different ways to write it. Now, how this is read, let's read this. Set notation, this means all of the x values where, this little bar, you can think of it as where. So all of the x values where x is greater than 5. That's how this reads. X is greater than 5. That is how this reads. Sorry, let me make this pretty again. Oh, if you want to use the proper vocabulary, you can say the set of x values where x is greater than 5. You're not wrong if you put all of the x values, the set of x values, okay? You'll see both of the language. All right, so guys, these are your notes. I'll let you guys complete the little examples, help this concept sink in. Try to write the expressions on the bottom. Go ahead and try that. We'll pause here for a moment. All right, so this first one right up here, this arrow is pointing to what? Negative infinity. So for interval notation, on the left is negative infinity. Infinity symbols always have a parenthesis. Infinities always have a parenthesis. Okay, now on the right, where am I at? -4. Do I use a parenthesis or a bracket? Parenthesis. Remember, guys, parentheses are for open circles, brackets are for closed circles. Okay, so I got a lot of questions on how do you know which number goes first? You always move from the left side to the right side. The left side is pointing at negative infinity. The right side is at -4. That's the order it goes in. Here, what's on the left? 3. So that will go first. This is pointing to the right, to infinity. That goes second. You always move left to right, least to greatest. Okay? I will let you guys do the rest of those. Let's talk about set notation. Okay? You're going to have a curly bracket, X, and a bar. That's how you always set these up. Okay, now let's talk about what's going to go inside. For the first one, I have X and the number -4. Is my arrow pointing to the numbers greater than -4 or less than -4? Less than. All these numbers are smaller than -4. So I'm going to use the less than symbol. Okay? What I like to remember, this looks like an L. Okay, so if it's facing this way, that's the less than symbol. Okay, write that down on your paper if that will help you remember what a less than symbol looks like and what a greater than symbol looks like. Okay, next one. I'm going to have X, and what number will I have this time? 3. Okay, so looking at the 3, am I going to be bigger than 3 or less than? Bigger. 4, 6, and 8 are bigger than 3. So I want the greater than symbol. And I'm going to need the equal sign because that's a closed circle at 3. So I will let you guys finish these. Go ahead and move on after this. We're going to move on to this problem right here. We're going to solve these. And then we're going to be done with the review. We're going to move on to what I really need to show you guys. Okay, but you kind of need this to move on. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start solving this. I'm going to distribute the negative. So guys, go ahead and distribute that negative. Everything else comes down. Everything comes down. Okay. Now I'm going to highlight. I'm going to combine this 3 and this -1 to get what? 2. That gives me 2. So this can be -4m and a 2. Okay, I want all of my m's together on one side and my numbers on the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this 5m and put it on this side. I'm subtracting 5m from both sides. Those canceled out. So let's see what I have. I have -9m plus 2 is greater than or equal to -25. What's next, guys? Yep, subtract this constant. So I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. And I have negative 9m is greater than or equal to negative 27. I'm going to pause here because I want you to discuss with your group what happens whenever you divide by a negative. Don't tell me, talk to your neighbor. All right, great. So you guys should have divided by negative 9 on both sides. So I get m, negative 27 divided by negative 9 is 3. What did you guys say in your group whenever you divide by a negative number? The sign has to flip. Exactly. So instead of a greater than symbol, I now have a less than or equal to symbol. Okay, so write this on the side of your paper. When you multiply or divide by a negative, flip the sign. The sign must flip. So we had a greater than symbol, but now we have a less than or equal to symbol. Okay, so guys, let's go ahead and graph this inequality. At 3, you're going to have a closed circle, and it says less than or equal to 3. So I'm going to face that way. Okay, good question. We flipped the sign when we multiply or divide both sides of the inequality. Up here, we did multiply by a negative, but that was only on one side. Okay, so this doesn't count right here. But when we divided both sides of the inequality, then you change the sign. Okay, very good question. Okay, now let's write interval notation. This is from negative infinity up to 3 with the bracket. Okay, so guys, this was an Algebra 1 review. We're going to go ahead and move on. You guys can do that practice on your own. Go ahead and flip to absolute value equations.
You did just divide the negative 27 by the negative 9, right?
Yep.